The UFC made it official on May 17th, 2026. McGregor versus Holloway. UFC 329. The announcement landed like a detonation. Social media flooded, pre-orders moved, the machine started humming. But if you've been paying attention, you've heard this song before. A big venue, a marquee date, a press release promising the return of the most profitable fighter in UFC history. And then, nothing. So before you book the flight or order the pay-per-view, ask the question nobody at the UFC wants you to ask. Is this a comeback? Or is McGregor selling something he has no intention of delivering? This is why Conor McGregor will never fight again. To understand why the stalling started, go back to July 10th, 2021. UFC 264, McGregor vs. Poirier, the trilogy. Final seconds of round 1, McGregor planted his foot and his tibia snapped. Compound fracture live on pay-per-view in front of millions. The leg bent at an angle a leg is not supposed to bend. A compound tibia fracture needs a minimum of 12 to 18 months just to restore basic function. Return to sport timelines for fighters who depend on explosive footwork and kicking power run longer. ESPN and The Athletic both tracked the recovery, and the gap between McGregor's public statements about being ready and any documented evidence of high-level training was wide from the start. His last completed fight was January 18, 2020, against Donald Cerrone. 40 seconds. Not a war, but the last time he threw meaningful punches with a healthy leg underneath him. From January 2020 to July 2026, that's 6.5 years. The sports science on extended layoffs is consistent. Reaction time degrades, chin durability drops without regular conditioning, and cardio erodes faster than it rebuilds past 35. McGregor turns 37 the night of the Holloway fight, and his body hasn't absorbed cage-level punishment since his leg was reconstructed. Then there's the wealth problem. He sold his stake in Proper Number 12 for a reported $600 million in 2021. Forbes listed him among the highest-paid athletes on the planet for multiple years running. He has forged Irish stout, real estate, and a life that doesn't require him to absorb left hooks from a man who just knocked out Justin Gaethje in the final second of their fight to claim the BMF title. Max Holloway right now might be the most dangerous version of Holloway that has ever existed. McGregor hasn't thrown a meaningful punch in over 6 years. US ADA testing logs are public record. Commission licensing documents are public record. The gap between what gets announced in a press release and what shows up in those records is where the real story lives. Here's what actually happens when McGregor announces a fight. Fans buy in immediately. Flights, hotels, travel packages, non-refundable. Because it's McGregor. Because it's International Fight Week. Because this time feels real. UFC 303 was scheduled for June 29th, 2024. McGregor versus Chandler. One of the most anticipated fights in years. Tens of thousands of people made financial commitments based on that card. Then, less than 3 weeks out, McGregor withdrew. A broken toe. MMA Junkie reported on the fallout directly. Fans who had already flown in, already checked in, already paid for everything non-refundable, had no path to a refund. UFC's standard ticket policy doesn't guarantee refunds when a main event fighter pulls out, only when the event itself is canceled. The event wasn't canceled. The card was reshuffled. McGregor was gone. The fans absorbed the loss. That's not a one-time failure. That's the structure. The announcement generates the revenue. Ticket sales, PPV pre-orders, sponsorship commitments, hotel blocks, all of it moves the moment McGregor's name hits the press release. The UFC collects before a single punch is thrown. And when he pulls out, the money doesn't come back. Chandler sat in interviews and said he'd been ready for over a year. He didn't sound angry. He sounded like a man who'd accepted the truth before the rest of us did.
Obviously, it's not encouraging. It's not great to hear, but I've also heard, many things that were not encouraging that turned out to be not true or just flat out false. So until the fights get announced, until Conor McGregor gets announced his next opponent, until then, man, all we can do is just hope and pray and kind of see what happens.
The fight was never going to happen. The announcement had already done its job. Here's what nobody wants to say out loud. The UFC needs this too. McGregor hasn't been a reliable fighter since 2021, but he's still the most searched name in combat sports. Every time his name hits a press release, PPV pre-orders move, sponsor decks get updated, and the UFC's valuation story gets a little cleaner for the next boardroom conversation. The announcement does real financial work, even if the fight never happens. And the UFC knows that. So the cycle keeps running. McGregor stays culturally alive without taking a punch. The UFC gets a marketing event they can schedule around International Fight Week, sell hotel packages against, and drop when the numbers are already in. Neither side has a reason to stop. The fighters who actually show up, like Chandler, are props in someone else's business strategy. That's the trap. McGregor can't walk away because walking away means admitting it's over. The UFC won't push him out because a ghost McGregor is still worth more than a real contender. So they print the press release, fans book the flights, and when July comes around, one of them will have a reason it didn't work out. The fans who flew to Las Vegas for UFC 303 already paid to find out how that ends. UFC 329 is not a comeback. It's a press release with an expiration date. The same one they printed for the Chandler fight. The same one thousands of fans paid for in flights and hotel rooms they never got back. Maybe he shows up on July 11th. But the cage has been empty for 6.5 years, and the record says that's not a coincidence.